Hello Mets fans, welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are having a great start to your day, but we're going to just dive right into this video because we're going to be taking a look once again at the Mets and their approach to the MLB offseason. And now that George Springer is out of the picture for the Mets, the big question is what's next? What is going to be their upcoming moves? And as we know, they've been showing interest and really keeping tabs on all these different names out there, but there are two players in particular that the Mets have shown interest in, one more heavily than the other, I would say, at least from what the reports have indicated. But those two players are, of course, yes, Brad Hand and Jackie Bradley Jr. So that's what we'll be taking a look at in today's video. Basically, if these players are very well the next big moves for the Mets this offseason, or if maybe they're going to be going in a possible different direction. And my overall thoughts and outlook on which one is more likely between the two to land in Queens, if not for both, and why they would be a good fit, why they might not be the best fit, and everything in between. And as always, guys, make sure you stay all the way until the end of the video for all the details and all my thoughts on Brad Hand, Jackie Bradley Jr., their connection to the Mets, and if they're actually going to be the next move for the Mets or not. And if you guys end up enjoying this kind of Mets content and want to see more great Mets content like this, you know what to do by now. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe and share this video with your friends. Put on the notification bell, all those great things help us get to 3,000 subscribers, guys. We are so close there, and I simply cannot thank you all enough for the countless support. It really does mean the world to me once again. But enough of me talking, let's get right into it. Alright guys, I think it's fair to say that both these players respectively have had some strong accolades in their careers. They don't really need to do much selling at this point as to the type of players that they are. When you look at a guy like Brad Hand, for instance, three-time All-Star, twice in the NL with the San Diego Padres, and once in the AL in 2019, most recently with the Cleveland Indians. And then Jackie Bradley Jr., one of the better Gold Gloves out there, a 2018 Gold Glover with the Boston Red Sox, has been a phenomenal fielder throughout his career. Both these guys bring a lot to the table for the Mets, and for a Mets team that is trying to add into the bullpen and at center field now that George Springer is out of the way, it would only make sense for them to land both these players, right? Well, I definitely agree in regards to Brad Hand's situation, because if you guys do not know the updates with Brad Hand, the reliever would easily be one of, if not the best reliever for the Mets. He's already one of the better relievers in all baseball and has consistently been one throughout his entire career, spending time with numerous teams now. But when you look at Brad Hand, still in the prime of his career, has been connected to the Mets since he was originally put on waivers by the Cleveland Indians back in this past fall in 2020. And since then, Sandy Alderson has made it clear that yes, we would have claimed him. We all know this by now, should they have been in the right position to do so, him and Steve Cohen in this new regime. And the Mets have since shown more interest in Brad Hand, and just over the past week, Ken Rosenthal dropped a supposed bomb, and we touched on that here in the channel. So if you want to check that out in my previous video, make sure you do more on Brad Hand and his game, but saying how yes, the Mets were closing in on Brad Hand, but then it was retracted by Ken Rosenthal. Felt very similar to the James McCann situation with the Mets, where it seemed like they were going to get a deal done, then it was halted for multiple days because of them not getting the right number just yet. But James McCann always seemed like he was going to the Mets. Brad Hand's a little bit of a different story, however. Since then, numerous teams have come out and have shown interest in Brad Hand and his services, and why wouldn't you? He's a great lefty as it is, one of the best closers in all baseball, but one of those most recent teams being, yes, the LA Angels. So because of that reason, that may very well be the biggest factor in halting things between him and the term he's looking for. He's looking anywhere between 2 and 3 years. Apparently from the Mets side of things, according to Andy Martino, and I get it, to Andy Martino, so always take that with a grain of salt, right? But the Mets are probably only looking for at least a 1-year deal as of right now. So if they do in fact get a deal done, it'll probably be a 2-year deal. If you're asking for my personal opinion, upwards of $20 million, shouldn't be more than that, at least from what reports have indicated at least. So Brad Hand, hopefully that gets done for the Mets, but that definitely, if you're asking me what can I bet the farm or bet the house on, if you will, and I'm really not going to do that because those normally don't hold true, but I would definitely say that Brad Hand is a more likely scenario than Jackie Bradley Jr. should both those not be an option together. But getting on to Jackie Bradley Jr., he's a little bit more interesting because I see a lot of you Mets fans out there constantly in my live streams from previous videos, because we touched on JBJ here just over the past couple weeks. And if you want to check out that video more on his statistics and everything there is to know, please make sure you do just that. But JBJ is a great fielder, has a strong bat, had a really solid, really underappreciated short 2020 season in his walk year with the Red Sox, but even in the prime of his career currently, doesn't look like the perfect fit for the Mets, and here's why. Just around 2 weeks ago, as a matter of fact, if you guys don't recall, I've said this plenty of times, shortly after I came out on my JBJ video, Sandy Alderson on a podcast with John Heyman stated how the Mets, really what their direction was at that point in time, would address in the offseason. And one thing that really stood with me personally was that the Mets are, yes, trying to address center field, outfield as a whole, but they're more than likely trying to prioritize a righty bat in doing so and not a lefty. So because of that reason, it doesn't mean that Jackie Bradley Jr. is out of the realm of possibility, but I don't think the likelihood is nearly as there as a lot of other Mets fans are making it out to be. And granted, could he very well be more of a fallback option now, and maybe Sandy Alderson was more under that firm belief of a righty because maybe at that point in time they were really sold on George Springer landing with the Mets? That very well could have been a possibility, and things can have changed since then. I won't doubt that for 1 second. The Mets have shown interest in other righties since then, however, guys like Albert Almora Jr., who definitely would be more of a depth piece, Kike Hernandez, who we just touched on here on the channel, who's a great utility guy who can play all aspects of the outfield and the infield for the most part. The Mets have a lot of options there, but when you're looking for a starter, JBJ is the best left in free agency in regards to center fielders, so that's why all you Mets fans probably want to see him land with the Mets. But for me personally, having an all lefty outfield is not the most ideal situation, so it will not surprise me whatsoever to see the Mets not necessarily get Jackie Bradley Jr. and they either get a center fielder either through a trade avenue as part of a bigger deal per se, or maybe them going after more of a platoon type situation and figuring out what to do with Brandon Nimmo, because I love Brandon Nimmo. I've said this plenty of times, one of the best on base machines in all of baseball and a better smile, the man from Wyoming, but I would much prefer to have him in left field versus center, because it's been evident the past couple years that his defensive game is average at best, and that's really stretching it to an extent. The guy is just looking 2 steps behind at times, and I would love to see him advance his game. If he works hard this offseason, gets better, and looks like a true center fielder next season, then great, but he has not sold it to me over the past 2 years. I'm not sure if he will going forward. That is something that only time will truly tell. But with the Mets trying to address this defense as it is, wanting to not just be a playoff contender, but a not Stanley Cup, oh, I'm thinking about hockey right now, but a World Series contender, then more than likely you have to look at this scenario of adding defense to its best. And when you're trying to add defense, you cannot rely on a guy of Brandon Nimmo to that extent. It is enough of a risk, if you ask me, or it could have a detriment to the team if they're trying to make him be that everyday center fielder when there has been clear holes in his defensive game, and has been one of the biggest issues for the Mets this past couple of years in regards to not just say woes due to injuries in the rotation, but also because of their infield and outfield depth when it comes to defensive help. It just has not been there. Now it's a complete 180 under this new regime, but only time will tell exactly how they address it. But if you're asking me between these two guys, I'm definitely thinking Brad Hand is very much more a likelihood. I really hope so, at least, because the Mets need that lefty in the rotation to really solidify things, get that shutdown closer. I get it, we have Edwin Diaz, but I would much prefer him on a personal level as a setup guy versus the ninth at this point in his career. And then if he wants to go back into the ninth, then okay. I just want to see more reliability with Diaz. He had a great short 2020 season. I want to see how he does in this upcoming year, and probably being in the eighth I think would suit him best, less pressure on him as well. Bring Brad Hand in there. He knows what to do. He's been a veteran in the league, has been awfully consistent. Have him shut things down in the ninth, and then you get your solidified lefty closer that's going to be one of the better ones in all the game of baseball. And just like that, your bullpen as it is already top 10, and that just takes it to another level. And then when you look at the center field options, Jackie Bradley Jr., amazing glove, great guy, great personality, really strong bat, still at least average at this point in his career, I would say. I think we can all agree on that. But JBJ, in my personal opinion, I'm not nearly as sold on him landing with the Mets as others, but I'm not ruling it out, because if he does land up with the Mets, I will make sure to cover it right here on the channel. Same thing with Brad Hand. I'll still be happy to do so. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about Brad Hand, Jackie Bradley Jr.? Are you sold on both these guys being the next big moves for the Mets this offseason? Or do you think that Sandy Alderson, not Jared Porter, oh my god, I can't believe I almost said that, but Sandy Alderson, Zach Scott, Steve Cohen, or do you think that they have a different trick up their sleeve? Please make sure to let me know in the comments as always, guys, and thank you again for checking out this video. If you did in fact enjoy, please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, share this video with your friends, put on the notification bell, all those great things. As always, it truly does mean the world to me, guys, and I simply cannot thank you all again for the endless support here on the channel. We're just getting started, and if you hadn't hit those buttons already, please make sure you do, so that way you can be part of the Wardy NYM family. We're doing amazing things here, and I can only imagine where we're going to be over the next 6 months to a year, but the sky truly looks like the limit. Thank you all again, guys. It means the world, and I'll talk to you soon.